Welcome to IT Pro TV. I'm your host, Don.
Coming at you live from San Francisco, California.
You're watching IT Pro TV.
Hello, and thank you for watching IT Pro TV, helping you level up with IT learning everywhere you go. I'm your host, Zach Memis, for this episode of CompTIA Linux Plus, Editing Files with Vi, Chapter 2. And Don Pezet is here to help us out once again. Don, good to see you, sir.
Is this editing with Vi, The Revenge of the Sith?
The Revenge of the Vi.
All right. Well, we already got a little bit of a start with Vi. We saw how to open up files, edit, search, replace. That was all in part one. But there's still a few more things that we need to take a look at to really be proficient with the editor. So in this episode, we're going to kind of catch up with some of those things, like how we save our documents and how we commit and exit the program. I also want to talk about navigating, because there's a lot of weird navigation scenarios that are out there. So those are some of the things that we're going to take a look at right here and get us to a point where hopefully by the end of the episode, you feel comfortable with using Vi to edit documents, because it's going to be a very useful utility as you work and support Linux in your environment.
And how can we navigate in Vi if our terminal does not support the arrow keys?
All right, so navigation in Vi is a tricky thing. And this is a part that a lot of people struggle with. Most of us are spoiled, and we're spoiled because we have graphical user interfaces that fully support your keyboard, and you can use up and down arrows and all that to navigate around. In fact, the whole last episode, when I was editing that Dracula document, I was using my arrow keys to navigate around. Mm-hmm. But if you're supporting servers and you're SSHing in or using some other protocol like Telnet 3270 or something like that, there's plenty of times where your keyboard arrows don't map properly or aren't supported, and so you're not able to navigate around. Well, Vi was written a long, long time ago, back when arrow keys generally didn't work as a rule of thumb. And so there's a whole other set of keystrokes that we can use to be able to navigate around, all right? And so I want to show some of those to you. Let me get back into my document. And actually, you know what? As I get into my document, I want to show you guys a little trick. Earlier, I was opening documents just by doing Vi Dracula.txt like that. But you can actually open a document and do a search at the same time. So I don't just want to open the document. Remember, we changed out Dracula to be Kermit. So I want to jump, as intimidating as that is.
It's intimidating.
I want to jump in the document right to the first line that mentions Kermit. All right. So I'm going to change this command. And before the file name, I'm going to say Vi space plus /Kermit space Dracula.txt. The plus says, here's a command I want you to run as soon as you get into the document. And you can actually put any command in here after the plus. I just want to do a search. So it's going to open Dracula, and it's going to search for the first line with Kermit. And when I run that, there we go. It jumps right to line 297. So I'm ready to get in here. And Count Kermit had directed me to the Golden Crone Hotel. Sounds great. If you can't take the recommendation of a frog, who can you trust?
A frog that sucks blood, mind you. That's what we're talking about here.
It's a progressive world.
It is.
All right, so let's get back to navigation. So if I want to navigate around, now I know that I can use my arrow keys. I can say up and down, and as I'm pressing up and down, you see my cursor move. I can go left and right. It's all very, very exciting and thrilling, until I end up in a situation where I press the arrow keys and nothing happens. Or worse, I press the arrow keys and a bunch of gobbledygook starts to appear on the screen because it's interpreting those arrow commands incorrectly. So in those scenarios, when you're in command mode, you can start to navigate. And I gave the example in the last episode of where if I just start typing in command mode, things won't show up. So like I typed Zach's name, Z-A-C-H. Well, it didn't show up. It wasn't until I typed the word is that I dropped into an actual insert mode and it started to let me type. Well, part of the reason was Zach's name contains the letter H, and H is one of the navigation keys. When you look at your keyboard, if you're on a US keyboard, which I know a lot of people are, but not everybody is, but on a US keyboard, H, J, K, and L are all right next to each other. It would be where your right hand would be placed if you're a touch typer, which I am not. But if you're a touch typer, your middle finger rests on the J key anyway. So H, J, K, and L are all right there. All right. And you can use H, J, K, and L to navigate up, down, left, and right. So H and L, which are on the outsides of the four keys, let me go left and right. So there's H and L. And sandwiched in between H and L are J and K, which allow me to go up and down. Oop, I got them backwards. J goes down and K goes up. I get a little rusty at these. So those allow me to navigate without using the arrows. And since they're just standard letters, they work in every terminal. So if you want to guarantee that you're always able to navigate in Vi, you'd really benefit from learning those letters so you can hit the right keystrokes for it. But man, it's a bit of a learning curve. It's hard to say, all right, yeah, I know that J goes down, because that's not intuitive. It doesn't even stand for, like, how about D for down? Well, D is taken up by delete, right? And so they're trying to do the best they can and put those letters under where your hand would be if you're a touch typer. You should already be stationed right there to be able to punch those in. So H, J, K, and L will let us do part of that navigation. There's a few others, like if I want to add a new line. So let's say, for example, I want to add a new paragraph in between these two paragraphs. I can press I to go into insert mode, and I could come in and start pressing enter and making some gaps, and now I can type in, this is a new paragraph and so on, right? But if I press escape and get back into command mode, there's actually a few different ways we can get into insert mode. I've been using I, which just does an insert right where you're currently at. So if my cursor is in the middle of a paragraph and I type I, I'm now inserting text right there, okay? But I could also choose, instead of I could say O. And if I hit O, it's going to insert a line after the line that I'm on. And a lot of times that's what I want. I want to insert a new line and start typing. And so you press O and see how it broke the paragraph up? And now I can start typing right in there if I want. If I don't want to add a new line, if I just want to start editing after this one, I could hit A, and A starts to insert after the cursor. And this is a little bit different. In fact, it's a bit hard to see. Let me zoom in. Let me try and zoom in. And I'm going to move my cursor into the right spot. Okay. So I've got my cursor right on the letter F. If I press the I key to insert, I'm now in insert mode and things don't look any different. The cursor didn't move. I'm going to hit escape and see how my cursor jumped back when I went into command mode. All right. If I move the cursor back on the F and I hit A, see how it moved forward? So I inserts right where you are. A inserts after where you're at. And that's pretty handy, because if you're on a blank line like this and you choose to type in A, well, there's no text to jump after, right? So it's just going to go into that mode. But if there was text, it would move after the character that you're sitting on. So, it's all just kind of about cursor positioning. If you know your keyboard commands, though, the H, J, K, and L, you could navigate to where you wanted to be and just jump into regular insert mode. And you don't have to worry about O and A and all the other different commands that you can use to jump in and punch things in there. So navigating is, it's a bit of an acquired skill. You'll have to just practice with it. And over time, you'll get used to it. You'll start to learn them. If you're struggling with it, there's actually a really neat tool to learn this. Let me bring up a web page here. If you're ever bored, which may not happen a lot, but if you're bored, go to vim-adventures.com, and they made a video game based on Vim. And it's all about teaching you how to navigate and use the Vim commands. So you see down here, it's kind of teaching me, it's teaching me the H, J, K, and L. And I can actually use the keyboard here to navigate and move the cursor, right? And you go on a little adventure. It's got a whole quest, and like it won't let me navigate into the ocean. So I've got to move down here, and I can navigate up. And then we keep going like that. So it's a fun little way to get in and kind of learn Vim. And that's available at vim-adventures.com. And it doesn't just do the navigation keys. It actually does a lot of other keys too. And it's just a phenomenal way to learn how to position and move without using the arrow keys. Everything done in here is done with standard Vim shortcuts.
What about options like cut, copy, paste? We got that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in pretty much any text editor, you're going to have cut, copy, and paste. Although normally you have a nice little menu where you use Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste, that kind of thing. Well, those menus and the Control-C and Control-V, those are likely there, but that's not a function of Vim. That's a function of your terminal program. I'm in a terminal. Well, I was in a terminal. Let me switch back here. Get out of this video game. Yeah, playing video games on the show. So in my terminal, under my edit menu, I can see where I've got copy and paste, and it's Shift Control C or Shift Control V. That's a function of my terminal. If I'm using a different terminal, they might be different shortcuts. And if I'm remoted in somewhere, the terminal isn't necessarily going to help me at all. So we need to learn how to cut, copy, and paste from within Vi itself. All right. And fortunately, it's not that hard, although the terminology is a little bit weird. All right. We've actually kind of seen a form of this already. When you want to copy something, you're taking a block of text and you're putting it in RAM, and you're holding it in RAM until you paste it somewhere. When you cut something, you're taking a copy of the text and putting it in RAM, and then you're deleting the text that was sitting in the system originally. So we saw delete in the last episode. Like if I wanted to delete this paragraph right here, which is line 288 through 295, I would just do a colon, 288, comma, 295, and then D, and that would delete it out. Now, that doesn't copy it into RAM first, though. So once I delete it, it's gone, right? I mean, unless I exit and come back in without saving, right? Then it'll be back again. But otherwise, it's gone. If I want to copy it into RAM, I need to do what's called yanking the text. It's not, in Vim, they don't call it cut or copy. They just call it yank. I want to yank that text and put it into memory. So the way we do that is by using the Y command. And there's a few different ways to do it. If you just want to copy a line, the easiest way is to get in command mode, move your cursor to the line, and then you're just going to type YY. YY copies the line. DD deletes the line, right? So YY copies it, and then I can move down somewhere else, and I can paste it with the letter P. So P pastes, and so I just copied this line 292 that says, of great fires took place, and now down here on line 299, I can see of great fires took place, right? I pasted that line. I will tell you, I don't normally do it this way, though, because it's rare that I just want to copy a line. I normally want to copy several lines. And so I'm typically going to use the execute mode to copy these things and not the regular command mode. So if I want to copy this entire paragraph, for example, right? So I want to copy lines 288 through 295. I can do a colon to get in command mode and then type 288, comma, 295, right? So I'm going to be executing on a range of lines. And then Y, I want to yank those lines. And when I run that, I get a little note at the bottom of the screen telling me 8 lines were yanked. And now I can, I'll create a space in here to work with so it'll be easier for us to see. I can go to wherever I want to put it, and I can do this either way. In command mode, I can just press P, or in execute mode, I can do a colon P. They achieve the same thing, and it's going to put that text. And so now I've pasted that text. But see how it didn't delete the original? It's not like a true cut. When you yank, it still leaves the original. And so I can always come back and delete it, and delete 288 through 295. It wouldn't really make sense here, but I could certainly do that. And at that point, I've effectively copied and pasted to another place. So the hardest part for me, the P part is easy, P for paste, right? But instead of cut, you've got to remember it's yank, the Y command, to be able to copy that into memory.
So when we're done, how do we save and then exit Vi?
All right, so I've actually saved a couple of times throughout through part 1. I don't think I've saved here in this episode yet. But saving can be done a few different ways, and exiting can be done a few different ways. The most common way is the one that I did earlier, where I did colon W. Colon W just says I want to write my changes to the disk, right? And if you just do colon W and press enter, there it goes. It saves it, and that's that, all right? But colon W actually does take some options. So for example, let's say I want to save it with a different name. We've replaced Dracula with Kermit. So
Yes.
it doesn't necessarily make sense that this document is still called Dracula.txt. Maybe I want to save it as Kermit.txt now, right? So I can come in and just say
Count
colon
Kermit.
W and then Kermit.txt, right? So colon W and a space, and then whatever you want the file name to be. And when I run that, now it's saved it under a different name, and I can see down there at the bottom, Kermit.txt, it's a new document. So it shows me it created something all new, and now there it is in all of its glory, Kermit.txt. From here, I can use the quit command to do colon Q. Colon Q says I want to exit Vi. And when I run that, it exits out. All right. Now, a neat little thing that we can do, I'm going to go ahead and just do Vi Kermit.txt to get back in there. And in the previous episode, I had shown where I had some edits that I didn't save. So for example, let's say I came in here and I deleted a couple of lines, or here, I'll insert some lines. So this is a new line. Very exciting. All right. And now I just do a colon Q. When I do a colon Q, it's going to quit, but it sees that I have unsaved changes, and so it warns me. It says, Don, if you exit now, you're going to lose what you typed. All right. So I've got choices. The choice I chose in the last episode was to throw away my changes. If I don't care about the changes, it tells me right here, add an exclamation point to override. I can do an exclamation point to quit out and throw the changes away. So that would be colon Q exclamation point. And when I do that, so line number 9 right now is the one that I added. I'm going to quit out. And then when I go back in, I can see line number 9 is not what I added. I've lost that change. Okay. So we need to save first and then exit. You can actually do them at the same time. It's a nice little shortcut. And you can actually shortcut a ton of different commands that are out there. I'm going to insert that line again. So, this is a new line. All right. And I want to save and exit at the same time. So I can do colon WQ, 2 commands, right? I can copy I can write and quit. I said copy because in my mind I was thinking, remember earlier we talked about cut, copy, and paste. I might want to yank the line and delete the line at the same time. So it's copied into RAM and the original goes away, and then I can always go and paste it somewhere else. You can do that. But here I'm trying to save and exit. So WQ, that's going to save and exit at the same time. And when I get out, there we go. See, it didn't warn me about that line because it knows, hey, you saved and then you exited. And then when I go back in, I can see that new line is still right there. Okay. Now, occasionally, you might run into a scenario where you're creating a new document, but the old document actually exists already. Okay. So for example, let me just show you. I'll get out. Whoops. I've gotten into macro mode. Let me quit out of that. There we go. All right. I've already got a document called Kermit.txt, but let's just say that I go into Vi and I open up a blank document. If you just type Vi by itself, you go in and you have a blank document. And I can come in here and I can type, this is going to be Don's amazing novel, right? So I'm going to write an amazing novel one day. It's never going to happen, but
yes, you will. You'll do it.
so anyhow,
adventures.
I create this document and then I go to save it, right? So I'm going to hit escape to get into command mode. I'll hit colon to get in execute mode, and I'll do W space, and I'm going to save it as Kermit.txt. All right. When I do that, it's going to warn me, hey, there's already a file called Kermit.txt. You're about to save over it. You can't do that. Or you can if you use that exclamation point. Remember, Q exclamation point, let me exit and throw away changes. W exclamation point will let me overwrite a file. And so I can overwrite it, and now it saves it, and this is the new Kermit.txt. I just lost the other one. All 16,000 lines of it are all gone, and they've been replaced by this horrific novel that I'm pretending to write. So we can do that. Now, if I say to myself, oh man, I just lost all my stuff, I still have the Dracula.txt file, right? So I could go to that file and access all of the data there. Well, I could exit Vim, do a colon Q and get out, right? And then use Vi Dracula.txt and go back in. Or you can actually switch files right from within Vim itself, okay? If you go into execute mode, do a colon E lets you edit another file, all right? And you could do a colon E, and I'll do space Dracula.txt. And when I do that, it's going to open up Dracula, taking me right back to the line I was editing the last time I was in the document. That's a function of Vim, that it remembers what line you were on. If you're in the original Vi, it doesn't do that. You go to line 1 every time. But once I'm in here, now I'm back into Dracula.txt, and I can edit that. I could copy everything if I wanted, and then do colon E and switch over to Kermit.txt and paste it in here to get the text back. Although I don't know if it'll be Kermit or Dracula at that point. I'm starting to mix up my villains. But that's one way to do it. Now, if you have unsaved changes in here, so here's some changes. If I do a colon E to switch documents, it cycles this document out of memory, which means it's another chance that I could lose everything that I've been working on. So if I do colon E space Dracula.txt and edit that, I'm going to get the warning that, hey, I'm going to lose the changes. And so I might need to do a colon E exclamation point if I don't care about the changes, or I might need to save first. And you could combine this and do like a W, E. It's not usually safe to combine W and E because they both take a file name operator. So we usually would do those separate. But I can do colon E, or E exclamation point, colon E exclamation point space, and then the file I want to open up. And so that's going to switch documents, and it's going to throw away the changes that I made to my Kermit.txt. There's one last command I want to show, which is another shortcut. Remember I did like DD to delete a line when I was in command mode. And all right, it works for some things. If you want to delete a single line, that's great. But for multiple lines, the execute modes are usually a little bit better. There's also a command mode shortcut for saving and exiting. All right. And what it is capital Z, capital Z. So for example, if I've got some changes in here, and I want to save and exit at the same time, I could do :WQ, or if I hold shift and hit ZZ, it saves and exits all right there from command mode. But it's got to be capital ZZ, and that takes it out. It's another alias. There's actually hundreds of aliases inside of Vi. It's an incredibly powerful program. You can learn tons and tons and tons about it. But all the commands that we've seen in part 1 and in this episode are all designed to just get you up to speed so that you're proficient with the editor itself. Vi, there's many editors out there. Many people prefer Nano or Jet or any number of other editors, but Vi is the one you can count on. That is part of one of the earlier Unix standards, and almost every system has Vi. Or if they don't have Vi, they have the binary for Vi symlinked to some other editor. So using that Vi command is pretty much a given on any Linux distro, which makes it a go-to tool for us.
Awesome. Editing files with Vi, chapter 2. And before we move on, I think, Don, you have something else you'd like to say.
Yeah, I mentioned other editors. There's no right and wrong. On the exam, they stress Vi. They want you to learn Vi because you can count on it being on distros, right? But if you like Nano, if you like Emacs, if you like a different editor, certainly stick with it. They have their own whole different set of shortcuts and things. But Vi is so prolific that even me, so I use a graphical text editor called Sublime Text. I use it on Linux, Windows, Mac, whatever. It has a Vi mode where you're in this graphical editor, but you can use all the keyboard shortcuts from Vi. That's how prolific it is. So if you're resistant to it, open your mind a little bit and experiment. I think that over time you'll get used to it, and you might not like it. It's certainly not the most user-friendly, but it is the one you can count on. And so I know I force myself to use Vi on a regular basis because of that.
Awesome. Great stuff, Don, as usual. And you know what else is great? There's all the episodes of CompTIA Linux Plus. Make sure you watch each and every one and take notes and do some additional studies. So when that exam comes rolling along, you'll be ready. And don't forget about the supplementary information in our course library that's there to do one thing, help you be even more successful. So check that out too. And tell everybody you know about IT Pro TV. IT Pro TV is binge-worthy. Thanks for watching. I'm Zach Memis.
And I'm Don Pizzette.
We'll see you again soon.
Thank you for watching IT Pro TV.